So we've got Finn at the moment. As you can see, he still absolutely loves his food. He always will, obviously. Who doesn't? But he's doing really well. He's, if you've seen our post, he's got his new, what do we call it, buggy. He's got his new buggy and he's absolutely loving it. Like, he literally loves going out, obviously barking at everyone on the way past to let them know that he's coming. But he's doing really well. So that is just a little update on Finn. Meanwhile, you can just watch him eat his food.
A special show today, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got a special show today. Very special. Oh, Vision's come out. Here he is. It's very special, so keep on watching to find out what this specialness is about, because it will be fun, and we are also doing a new puppy series, so that'll be interesting. Should we head on up? So as you can see, we're all ready up here. Got the paddling pool out for next week. It's supposed to be really warm. So that's all set up. So as you can see, we have got everything all set up, and Vision's probably going to come say hello. But we'll make sure he's out the way when we get to the games and stuff. So we have loads of stuff here. We have toys, we have brushes, we have treats, food, leads. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about puppies and what you might need if you're getting a puppy, and what the first things to do when you get a puppy. So we're going to start off with the leads and the collars. So what we've got over here is we haven't got a collar at the moment because we haven't got a puppy, but we are going to show you what I mean by a collar and a. This is the size for a puppy. So for previous puppies we have used this, and then it's adjustable, so as they grow up it can get bigger. So that's a harness. This can be used for different things, like if you have a French Bulldog, these harnesses are better if you're walking them. And then so we like to use harnesses for walking, because it then means that they don't have to pull on their collar and restrain on their neck. So we use a harness. And then we've also got a variety of different leads. So we've got this one and this one. These two are really strong leads with buckles on the end that are really strong, and I've tested them out. There is no way that these can unclip. If they can, we'll definitely get a new one. And as you know, I like to review different stuff, different leads, so I will review different types of stuff. So we've got two leads here. We've got the handle grip lead, and this is really, really grippable, really easy to hold, and it's got a loop on the end, so it's super easy. Your dog, you can't really let go of the handle, and if you're holding your dog, as we always say, never let go of the end loop. So that's why I always get leads with a loop on the end, because it's super easy. And these leads are so indestructible as well. Like, if your dog went to chew this, it's really hard to chew through unless you allow them to just sit there and chew on the lead. It's really hard to break. So we've got our leads here and our harness. Wonder what Vision's doing back there, I don't know. And then we've also got our long lead. So when we're out and about, this helps us have a bit of control for our dogs. So if we're out on a field when our dogs have had all their jabs, then it's really easy to gain control of them, have the end of the line, let them have some freedom. But it's also good for, like, if you're practicing recall, extra good recall in this case, then you'll need a long lead. We suggest not a really long lead, a reasonable length depending on your dog and your dog's drive. So then we've got a bowl here. Bowls that are non-slip and really easy cleanable. So we've got a metal bowl here, and it's super easy to clean. and obviously we want to clean it so then we keep it nice and clean and no bacteria can get on it, which can make our dogs poorly. And then we'll move on to the food last because there's a bit to talk about that. We've also got over here a variety of toys. This one is a nice chasey toy that your dog can chase after. So if they want to get the toy, they can. And then it's just a nice game. We will move on to games about this further on into our puppy series. So we have our flirt pole. So then we also have this toy. This is a big no for me. Possibly for older dogs, you might use it. But for a puppy, it's definitely a puppy. The tassels at the end make it nice and fun, but definitely not for a puppy whose teeth are growing. So that is a big no-no. We're going to get lost with that. That's going. We've also got different tuggy toys, and we've also got a ball on a rope. Toys like these and this, which I'll talk about in a sec, are toys that shouldn't be left with our dogs. So we shouldn't be leaving these out, and they shouldn't be allowed to go and chew them up in their own. This toy is a clam toy, and it's really good for if your dog has no toy drive. Most puppies I know have loads of good toy drive, but what you can do with this, I've got one on a rope, so it's a little bit more fun. And all you do is you just put the treats and you can show them, you can bounce it around. You need to show. So let me start with my live. So this is a toy, not really a toy, this is what I call a yak bar. Loads of research on it, and I'll do a post soon and it will tell you all about it. But these chews, yak chews, definitely recommend for puppies. Really good for keeping their teeth clean, and it's awesome that you can leave out with them. And then we've got our Kongs. So I know that loads of people in the shop see those really cute small Kongs, and they're like, oh, that's so cute, let's get the pink and the blue one. The pink and the blue one are for puppies, but if you've got a really destructible puppy that likes to chew everything, I wouldn't recommend getting the blue and pink ones. I'd recommend getting a black and a red one, because these are the strongest. The black ones, the big ones, I wouldn't give this to a puppy because one, it would be too hard, and two, it would be too big. But this would be for adult dogs that really like to chew things apart. And then we've got the smaller red Kong, which is also super strong, and they're super stuffable. You can put anything in it, and it's also really good for crate training, because when you teach your puppy crate training, it's really good to teach them that the crate is a good place where you get nice yummy food. And then we've got different brushes. You can get different brushes. This isn't one I would recommend. You can get brushes like Furminators, etc. If you go look in the pet store, you can ask for some advice as well. But we have a brush. This is really good for when you're training your puppy to get used to vet visits, touching different places. Then we can use the brush. We will do a lesson on this. And then we've got, along with the Kong, some enrichment stuff. So I have here the ruffle mat. This is super good for hiding food in. So if I'm just going to move this down in case I'm shouting too loud. So if your dog is not wanting to do any more training, very unlikely for the type of dogs that we get, but if your dog is wanting to have a little nap or getting ready for a nap but still has a little bit of energy, you can use these two things to settle them down ready for bed. You can put their treats in a ruffle mat and they have to snuffle for it, and on a lick mat I recommend getting the hard ones that are really, really indestructible, like really, really hard. Wouldn't leave it unattended, but you can put wet food on it. If your dog's on dry kibble, then I would recommend putting their food in some hot water and then mushing it onto the lick mat, and that makes a nice fun game for them. And then here, you're probably wondering, why have you got a cat carrier? I think it's a cat carrier, or it's a dog one. But inside, I've got some nice cozy blankets. We use this for Wonder. And when your dog hasn't had their jabs, it's really good to stick some blankets inside and just pop your puppy inside. and you can let them experiment. You can let them see the whole world. You can take them into shops. I know that B&Q have now let dogs inside. I know loads of shops. What was that? Wilko. That also lets dogs inside now. There's a few other shops. Haven't got it at the top of my head right now, but there's loads of shops that will allow your puppy inside, where they can. Oh, someone's having a little bark. But you can let your dog go into different shops, experiment on. So if you went into a clothes shop, loads of people move the hangers across the line and it makes a little squeak. That's a good one to listen to. There's also different noises like people chatting, people moving, etc. So there's different noises they can listen to. They can also go out into the street, like going into town with them in this, and meanwhile just giving them some treats to let them know it is okay to hear these, and also it's a great place and they can listen to everything whilst they're in this. And then once they've had their jabs, they can go see everything. And then we'll move on to the last thing, apart from the crate and a few other things. But then we've got a big bag. You can see some cats have tried to have a little nibble there. But we've got some food. It might not be for other people, but what we would recommend is high value treats. So what I've got here is 100%. So it's got 90% turkey, 10% potato and sweet potato. So that's really, really high value, and also it's not got anything bad in it. So it's really small. I'll come over. You can have a look. So hopefully you can see. Let me just check everyone can see. So really small treats, and they're really good for training your puppy. Really high value. And obviously for treats you might want to use moist treats that aren't really chewable, and they can super easily just bite into it and then move on. And then we've also got food. And sometimes for our dogs I use treats, depending on if I'm going to do some high value if I'm going to need high value treats for going into town. But with my dogs I do something called ditch the bowl, where basically they have all their meals hand fed, and that means that if they have really big kibble, I can either put it in some water and then cook it, or I can break it up depending on this treat. But as you can see here, this kibble is really, really big. So just coming across the cameras, it's really big, especially for a puppy. That's really big. So I would change it up. I'll put some posts out later for what I would do. And what I'll do is I'll just hand feed this food, do some training with it, and that means that your dog gets tired really easily, really quickly, and also they're doing some learning meanwhile. So I'm going to move all this stuff out of the way so I can talk about crate training and you might need. So if I just pop the treats up here, and we'll keep the lead and harness out to talk about that as well. And we'll just put everything aside so we can do the training. So there's another thing I need to talk about as well, which is beds and crates. So as you can see, I have a bed there, there's another one underneath, that's why it looks really big. But you want to use different beds, indestructible ones and comfy ones as well, because it's really important to talk about beds, because it needs to be a safe place for your dog. It needs to be a place where they know they can relax, and it also needs to be a place that is nice and calm, nice and soft. So under here is a nice bed. Finn got it for his birthday. It's really indestructible, and it's also gripped, so if you were to put it on a tiled floor it wouldn't move. Obviously this is grass, so it won't grip as much. but it's super indestructible. They can't really get their mouths around it. There's other beds a little bit better than this. We just covered it with a blanket just to make it a little bit nicer. But if I know that if I was getting a puppy and this bed was, and I see them trying to bite this bed or trying to get to it, then I would remove the blanket and maybe get a different bed if it's not working. So then we also get a crate. It can be any type of crate. It can be wire or it can be plastic. But we would recommend getting the right size. So we would get a size that they can't get up and pee. They only have that space to settle down and go to sleep. Obviously it's not too tight and not too small, but it still needs to be a reasonable size. So, when we're doing crate training, we always talk about like what goes inside the crate and how to encourage them to get in there. But first we're going to talk about why dogs need sleep. Dogs need, basically it's just one big answer, which is dogs need sleep to process stuff. So if you've gone out and done some training with your dog, they need to process what they've done to know, to then come back out and be like, oh, I remember this, let's do it. For dog's crate, you wouldn't have any toys in there, like indestructible toys, because they'll find something to do and they'll chew that up and they could digest it as well. I wouldn't add water into their crate because one, they could get a big drink from bar, they have a wee in there. And it's also going to be placed in a nice setting. Something about my training. So let me just grab my training. There's one more thing, and I'd like to introduce you all to our new puppy. We haven't decided on the name, but we're going to get loads of suggestions from people. But this is our new puppy. His litter name was Enzo, and he's off now. Where's he off? He might need the toilet, and that's fine. We'll let him go to the toilet if he does. But that is our new addition to the family that I've been waiting all week to introduce you to. So, is he going to come over? Puppy! He's having a little sniff around at all the treats and toys that we had out. Come on in. Yeah, good boy. Good boy. So we picked our puppy up on Tuesday evening, and I've been absolutely excited to tell you guys about him. But I wanted to introduce you all to him on our live, and I feel so happy to be able to introduce you to our new puppy. And we'll be getting name suggestions from you guys. We're going to have some very, very special names from you guys and some suggestions. So this is Finn's cousin. This puppy is from Finn's line, so it's related to Finn. Just having a drink. But this is our new addition, and you guys are going to see his new adventures with him. And now we're going to get on to the puppy training. So do you want to show everyone what we've been learning this week? So I'm going to start by showing you some luring games. So when I say luring, it's guiding under the nose with some treats. So just before I start, I have got his daily food in there. Our breeder gave us some of his food, and it was quite big. I'll just come to the camera and make sure everyone can see. That was the size of his kibble. So it was quite big, which means we broke it up into 4. So we get loads and loads of training repetitions with him. He might be going to the toilet. No. I'm going to get him to sit. And this is where we move on to teaching our dog a sit. So what we're going to do is we're going to lure them above the head until their bum sits on the floor. Good boy. Come on in. Sit. Good boy. So he's practiced this loads of times, so I have added the sit cue. But once I know he's confident with the sit, then I'll add the cue. And then we're going to teach you guys a down. This is the most hardest basic I've probably taught Harper. It might not be the case for up, but it was for Harper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him into the sit, and I'm going to lure him down to the toes. And when he goes into the down, then I'll reward him. Yes, good boy. Then I'll get him back up. And then that's where we move on to the stand. So and reward him. I know one way that really helped with Harper's down, which was if you sit on the floor like this. I'm going to bring him around my leg first. And I lured him under my leg until he was in the down. Good boy. And then I bang him out, and I'll try again. Down. Good job. So basically the leg is a little bit of a barrier at meal time, so he's very hungry. And so that's a few basics, that's a few positions you can do. And then we also need to teach our dogs to know their name. So one thing I do is I like to say his name and then give him a treat. So he hasn't got a name yet, but we have, it sounds really, really silly, but I'm going to use one of the names that we're thinking for him, and then I'll give him a reward. FJ. 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 So he's basically learning that, there you go. He's basically learning that his name means something good, and it means that he's going to get a big reward. So if he comes back from a little recall game. So what I'm going to do is, you can do this on lead, especially if your dog likes to have a little sniff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show him I have a treat. I'm going to give him the treat. I'm going to run away. Come. And I'm going to say come and show him my treat. Come. Oh, you dropped it. There you go. Come. So I'm not going out of his reach. If I did it here and ran all the way to the other end of the garden, that would not be fair on him. He would go sniff something else, and it's basically just setting him up to fail. So we're going to bring him round. Come. Come. Good boy. So that's a little recall game you can do. You can build it up, add a bit of distance, and also practice a little game that we like to do called the triangle game. You can use cones as a little guide reference, but right now I'm just going to put 1 or 2 treats on the floor depending on how fast he eats. I'm going to go over here. Come. And then I'm going to go over here. Come. And I'm going to put it on the floor. Come. Put it on the floor. And just going round. Come. In a triangle. And you can make that triangle really big in the end. But that is some recall games. And then we're just going to talk a little bit about toilet training. So I saw at the start that he was getting a little bit, he was wandering off on his own. I thought he needed the toilet. He didn't. Toilet. He probably just wants to do a little bit of training, but we'll see if he goes. When we talk about toilet training, you're going to chew me. So I'm going to. We always take our dogs out to the toilets after play, food, drink and sleep. This is when they're most likely to need to go to the toilet, but obviously in between they might as well, which then basically you can look out for signs like circling, finding a spot. So if you know your dog, like your puppy, likes to go to the toilet in one specific spot, then you can look out for if they're going to that spot. Sit. And then you can let them out into the garden, especially if they're trying to, especially if they, oh, you're going for that hand, especially if they're doing it inside. If they're doing it outside, that's really good. You can say the word. So if Puppy was going to the toilet right now, then I would say the word. So I use be quick. Loads of people use hurry, but we use be quick, or they can use toilet, whatever you choose. So whilst he's going to the toilet, only whilst he's going, then I'll say the word, and once he's finished his pee, then or poo, I'll reward him with a treat. I'll say good boy and give him a treat. But whilst he's peeing, I'm going to stay nice and calm, and I'm going to, I'm not going to just, that will then cause them to stop, and they'll be like, ooh, what's the game? potentially could cause zoomies, getting overexcited. So that's why we stay nice and calm. So I'd say good boy, nice and calm. Vision. Oh no, that's not vision. That's bright spat. So that's a little game. And do their own thing. And they're not coming back as well. That could mean that they need the toilet. When I'm doing training with, so I always put him on a lead unless I know, like the garden is pretty safe, and also I know he's not likely to run off. You're not going to do it today? No? Just wants to chew it up. Right. But we always do it on the lead just so you have control of him, and he also isn't likely to run off. Also, whilst I'm on the subject, I know one of Finn's fans has one of Enzo, we'll call him Enzo for now, one of Enzo's brothers. So we'd just like to say that one of those fans on there, if you are there, say hello. But one of Finn's fans has Enzo's brother, maybe. And then have we talked about crate training? Sort of. So just a little tip about crate training. In a few weeks, maybe next week, we'll do a lesson about crate training and the ins and outs of it. But encourage your dog to get... So if I had crate, we'll use the bed as a crate here. If I had a crate and he went close to it, I'll give him a treat. Perhaps put the treat inside, but I'm not forcing him to go inside. So I'd say good boy for going on it. Good boy. He's pretty close, and we're just encouraging him to get close. If you feel that they are confident, you can lure them in. They might not go all the way in, that's fine. And once they're in, give them a massive jackpot. You can tell them they're good, and you can give them loads of treats at the back of the cage to tell them that it's a good place to be in there. Whilst also doing that, you can feed their meals in there, you can give them Kongs in there so they know that it's a really, really good place. So I'd put loads of treats at the back, and it just encourages them to get in. And that is crate training, and next week or in a few weeks we'll do a bit about crate training, a bit about going out in the carrier. In fact, that might be next week. We'll do a live about going out in the carrier, what you can do, different places you can go, and also suggestions of places you can go to get your puppy to listen to different things, see different things. Like, for example, we can do guns. That's a good one. Because of fireworks, we don't want our puppies to be scared of fireworks, especially when they're older, because it can cause problems. So that is this week. I think I've covered everything. He's off. But that is this week. If anyone has any questions, then definitely let us have a know. Definitely ask. Good boy. And whilst we finish up and we're just saying goodbye, we're showing you what we've learnt this week with little puppy. So he's learnt some luring games. He's learnt to follow the treat. Good boy. He's really good at his sit. Good boy. And we're sort of getting there with the down. Come on in. We're getting there with the down. We are getting there. Good boy. And he's also really good in public. When he's in his carrier, we take him out. He listens to everything. He's really calm around dogs. Absolutely loves Finn. Literally any time he's gone for a sleep and he comes down, first thing he looks at is Finn, and then goes over, has a little play with Finn, and also tries to climb in his mouth. It's a thing with Finn, they all try to climb in his mouth, but Finn loves it. He's like, offers anything, and they get along really well, don't you? Yeah. He also knows, he's also started, and he's really good at it. He's practicing his heel. So we'll just start with the heel. Good boy. You coming? So he's really good at that. We're getting there. It's not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. But then we're going to get him into a sit. Good. But he's learning his hill really well. And he's really good at it. Which is great for an 8-week-old puppy. Because you're really good. And he absolutely loves his food. He's obsessed with it. Which is really good for his training. So we're going to sign off there. And I hope everyone enjoyed this week's lesson and loved seeing our special, not guest now, it's not a guest, he is our new addition to the family, and he is hopefully going to come and say goodbye. Yes, good boy. So we're going to say goodbye. He hasn't got a bark yet, but he'll come up to the camera and have a little goodbye. And say goodbye. Bye everyone. So we'll see you next week, won't they? They'll see you next week. But you will see him next week for the puppy training, because he's going to be joining in with the puppy series. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye.